Welcome to the Week 3 Lab Work assignment for Applied Spreadsheets. We'll begin by clicking on the Lab Work link of our class, and you will see that we are completing Lab 1, the 8-year financial projection that's located in your e-textbook on pages 198 through 201. We're only completing parts 1 and 2. You'll need to begin by launching your e-textbook that's located on the left-hand side link of our class website. Once you open your e-textbook, you can navigate at the bottom directly to EX198. And here we'll see we're starting with Lab 1, the 8-year financial projection. In this problem, in this scenario, your supervisor in the finance department at the company Adaptive Solutions Online, they've asked you to create a worksheet for a flagship project. And in this project, we're going to project the annual gross margin, total expenses, operating income, income taxes, and net income for the next 8 years based on the assumptions table. You'll find that on page EX198 in our e-textbook. We'll come back to this assumptions table in a moment. Here you can see an example of the lab assignment completed. However, note to self, do not copy the data that you see here in these rows and columns. The data that is going to populate in these rows and columns are all based on functions. These formulas or functions that we're entering will allow the numbers, the numeric data, to properly be entered. If you just type these numbers, you've not completed the assignment correctly because you need to showcase the functions that are put in to each one of the cells. Let's get started by looking at the next page at the directions step by step. Although I am going to walk through this assignment, I am going to encourage you that you do need to use your e-textbook and go through each step yourself. Remember, I'm working on a Mac. My options and tools and features will be very similar. Some of them are located in slightly different areas. Let's get started by launching a new Excel worksheet. And in step direction 1, we need to enter in the title of our company. So we're going to type in Adaptive Solutions Online. And our subtitle, which is in column A, row 2, will be 8-year financial projection for product X. To complete step 2, we need to change the font in cell A1 to 28 point. Now here's one such distinction in my version. In order to change the font to what's specified as Aharoni in the course e-textbook, I don't have that particular font, so I'm going to select Arial. You may also select Arial if you don't have that font as well. In the next step, I need to now format my subtitle to be an 18-point font. And again, I'm going to select Arial. You'll note I want consistency throughout my spreadsheet, so because I've started using Arial, I will use Arial throughout my entire worksheet. After doing that, we're going to now be introduced to a new function called the Now function. So we're going to start in cell I2 and we're going to apply the Now function. When I go into column I, row 2, I need to click on my Formulas tab. Again, your ribbon might look slightly different. Remember, when you hover your cursor over any of the features or tools in the ribbon, the tooltips will display. I'm going to insert in a new function, and that is going to be date and time, and I'm looking for the Now function. If you have difficulty locating this, make sure you've done the chapter reading for chapter 3. Once I select the Now function, once I enter and accept that, my date and time is actually displayed. which is right now. I need to now format this. Per our textbook, we are going to format this date to the style here where I have my date, my month, and my year. I can do that by several different ways. I can right-click on that cell and format cells. When I format cells, I am looking at formatting the date. Here's where I can find the right option per the directions, so I'm displaying the day, the month, and the year. I'll select OK. I now will progress on to step number 3, where I am adjusting column widths. Here's another difference where my system will be a little bit different than yours. So when I'm adjusting column width of column A, I want to adjust that to 24 points. So I'm going to select column A. On my Home tab, I will be able to format the cell for the column width. Once I select the column width, you'll be able to type in 24. Because I'm working on inches, I'll need to manually type in the inches that I have. If I look at the top between A and B columns, I can see that my width is set to 24, or in my case, 2.07 inches. Looking back at formatting the next columns, I'm looking to format column B through I, and I want to set that to 14 points. So I now need to select columns B through I. Once I select that, again on the Home tab, I will look at the cells format to adjust column width. You will now need to type in the 18 point, the 14 point that is to be set to. So in my case, the 14 point I believe is 1.24. I'll double check that. When I look in between my two columns, I can see the width is set to 14, or in my case, 1.23 inches. Each cell is now set to the exact same width for consistency. Now I need to adjust some row heights. I want to adjust the row heights of rows 7, 15, 17, 19, and 22, and I'll format those to 18 points. In order to select multiple rows, I'll begin by selecting row 7. On your PC, you'll want to hold down the Control key. If you work on a Mac like me, you'll use the Command key. So I've select row 7. Now you'll depress your Control or Command key, and you can select row 15, row 17, 19, and 22. Now I have multiple rows that are selected. Here's where now I will select my row height. Back on the Home tab, formatting the cells, the row height, you'll want to set this to 18 inches. I think this might be 0.31 for me, and I will double check that by looking on the ribbon. I'll need to adjust that, and so I have a height of 18 points. Once I've set them to 18 points, they are all uniform and they are all the same. They will all be set to 18 points. So now I have consistency. It's a little hard to see those differences now, but you'll see them when you have data entered into the spreadsheet. Now I want to look at step number 4, and I'm going to enter in column titles. The title is year 1. And I need to have all these years through all of my columns from B to I. So what I'll do is I'll start with column B, row 3. And here I'm going to type in year 1. When I type in year 1, I am now going to drag that cell using the fill handle. So I want it to be completely in column C3 all the way over to column I3. So the fill handle you'll see is a square box in the lower right corner of the cell when it's selected. Notice my cursor will change when I end up putting it over the box for the fill handle. I should have a solid plus sign. Now once I have that, I'll hold down my left click, keep that left click depressed, and slide my cursor all the way over to the I column. When I release that left click, you will see that Excel knows how to numerically simulate and replicate to duplicate that year format. Next, I need to format those cells. I'm just going to format B3 right now. I need a 12-point font. I need to center and italicize it, and I need to angle it. So I'll select year 1. I need to center align it. I need to check that I have 12 points. I'm going to stick with the same font that I've used before. For consistency, I've Arial. And I need to italicize that. Once I have that completed, I'm now going to use the Format Painter tool. I need to angle it first. I can right click and select Format Cells. Then I have options for alignment. I can align by adjusting the orientation. I particularly like my year angled slightly like that. And that's simply again by right-clicking, formatting cells, and you can change the angle and how your text is displayed. So I'm going to center that to a 45-degree angle here. Once I have that selected, I think I missed one quick step on step number 1 where I need to bold the entire worksheet. So I'm going to select and bold, and I certainly want to bold everything. So once I have year 1 put in at an angle, I am now going to use the Format Painter tool. On your Home tab, you'll probably have your Format Painter tool on your ribbon and it looks like a paintbrush. Again, when you hover your cursor over, you'll see the tooltips and you're looking for the Format Painter tool. The Format Painter tool also works in Microsoft Word. When you select the Format Painter tool, I have double-clicked it to turn it on and you can see that tool is depressed. I now see that my cursor has a plus sign with a little paintbrush icon. All I need to do is click in each one of these cells and it automatically copies the same formatting that I copied in B3. Now I can turn my Format Painter tool back off. Looking at the next steps, we are looking at step number 5, and we now need to enter the row titles in cells A4 all the way through A9. So here I'm looking at A4 all the way through A19. I'm sorry if I said 9. So I need to enter in the row titles for this range. Where are those row titles? They're in your textbook on page EX98. Let me flip back to that page, and if you're watching this video, you may want to fast forward because I'm gonna quickly need to type those in here now. So I'm gonna type in sales, cost of goods, gross margin, expenses, advertising, maintenance, rent, salaries, shipping, supplies, Web services. Total expenses. I'm going to skip row 16 and I'm jumping to row 17. Operating income, income tax, net income, and I'm going to stop there. That's A4 through 19. I just obtained that data from the textbook on page EX 198. I can also quickly check my spelling, but I have spell check as well. Now we're going to continue on. I need to format the font here in those cells. So when I look at those cells, I am looking at changing the font for cells A7, 15, 17, and 19 to 14 point. Again, I used Arial. So let's look here. I want to format A7. So I'll select 7 and remember you'll hold down your control key on your keyboard to select multiple rows. I have A7, A15, and A17. Was that it? A7, 15, 17, and 19. So I have these all selected, and here I need to change the font to 14 points. And again, I'm going to stick with the same font option and select Arial. Now I'm looking at the next step, which is adding thick bottom borders. I'm looking at column B3 all the way over to I3. Let's look at the first one. So I'm looking at B3 all the way over to I3. Now on your Home tab, in the Fonts panel, you will hover your cursor over the tool and you'll see Apply Borders to the selection. There's a pull-down arrow, and when you go through the list, you're going to look for Thick Bottom Border. Select that, and you'll see you have a thick bottom border. The other thick bottom border that I needed to add was in range B5 through I5. So I will select B5 through I5. And again, I will select the thick bottom border. Now I need to use the Increase Indent button that's located on the Home tab in the Alignment group. This actually bumps the text to the left or to the right by essentially working like your tab key. So I'm going to indent the row titles in cell A5. So I will go to A5, and on my Home tab, I will look on the Alignment panel, and if you hover your cursor over the tool, you'll see the tool tips Decrease Indent and Increase Indent. I'm going to select that for one click. Now, as a general note, watch row 5, column A. I can select that Increase Indent many times or Decrease Indent. For our example, we just need one click for the Increase Indent. So that is for A5, and the next one that I need to move is in the range of A8 through 14. So I need to select A8 all the way through A14. Once I've selected that range, I will, on my Home tab in the Alignment panel, click on Increase Indent one time. And I need to indent cell A18. So I'll go to A18, again on my Home tab, Increase Indent. It's very important to be formatting your worksheet correctly. It helps the data be broken down so it can be absorbed and read and followed very easily. Now, as we look at the next direction, we are looking at a step that we're going to allow you to eliminate. So step 6, you don't have to worry about step 6. Let's now look at step 7. Enter the table title assumptions in cell A22. A22, I will type in assumptions. Now I need to look at page EX128, and I'm going to be looking in cells A23 through A27, where I need to enter in that data from that table that we reviewed earlier in this video, and that's the assumptions table. So I need to type in this data. I will put in and I also need to enter in the data numerical amounts that we see displayed here. Of course, when you're working with Excel, verifying the data that you're entered against the data that you're receiving it from is a very critical part. If you've got any of the numbers juxtaposed or incorrect, it will impact the results of everything on a worksheet. So always go back and verify your numbers and your data. I'm going to go back to the direction step where we left off, which was here on direction number 7. Here we will need to use format symbols when entering in the numbers. Because I use the format symbols, you'll note that when I click on the unit cost, my number format is automatically adjusted to currency for me. Now watch when I click in B25. My number format is automatically set to percentage for me. You might want to just quickly verify that you have those in correctly. Now we need to look at the last step in number 7, which is to change the font size of the table title cell in A22. It needs to be 14 points. Again, I'm going to use Arial and I need to underline it. So A22, I need to set it to 14 points and I need to apply an underline. And now we are looking back at our directions to step number 8. In step number 8, we're looking at selecting a large range, B4 through I19. What does that look like? Let me zoom back out just slightly. And I'm looking at selecting B4 all the way through I19. This range, that's what you're looking to select. B4 all the way through I19 here. Once we have that selected, we now need to click on the number format dialog box. And that's where we're going to format the cells. So you're going to be looking at your home tab in the number group. And when you format these cells, we're going to set them to, we're going to look at the number category, and we're going to assign a number style with no decimal places where negative numbers are enclosed in parentheses. So let's look at that. I do have number styles that are here. I can also right click and select format style, and I can look at number, and I'm looking to the category of number here. My decimal places, I want 0 decimals. I can check on the box to use thousand separators, and you see that will just add the comma for me. Now here's a difference between my Mac and your system. You're locating the negative numbers that's in parentheses. You won't see parentheses on mine. You need to find the parentheses on yours. We're not specifically looking for a red parenthesis number value, so I'm going to select black, and you want the parentheses around the number format. Then you can select OK. Now you don't see anything, but these cells are now automatically formatted, all of them, ready for the data for the functions that we'll be entering in. That's the general start of our worksheet. The next video I'm going to post will be on our functions. So that will be part 2. This is part 1 of just getting started with formatting in some of the basics. Take a deep breath and let's get ready to talk some functions.